Right now, somewhere in your house, there's probably a bottle of something. Wine in the cabinet, beer in the fridge. You didn't invent that habit, you inherited it. Because drinking alcohol isn't a modern invention or even a farming era invention. It might be older than agriculture, possibly older than us as a species. The question is, when did this actually start? Let's go back to the beginning. And the beginning isn't even human. Before any hominid ever fermented anything on purpose, fruit was already doing it for them. Overripe fruit naturally ferments as wild yeast breaks down its sugars. Biologists call this the drunken monkey hypothesis. Our primate ancestors got a survival edge from being attracted to that smell because it meant ripe, calorie-dense fruit. Here's the twist. Our bodies got really good at processing that alcohol. A gene called ADH4 shows a mutation in the ancestor we share with gorillas and chimps, roughly 10 million years ago. That mutation made our ancestors 40 times better at metabolizing ethanol than earlier primates. 40 times. That's evolution favoring the ones who could handle a boozy piece of fruit and keep functioning. So before humans were even human, we were already built for this. Fast forward to actual Homo sapiens, actual archaeological sites. This is where it gets wild. In 2018, archaeologists working at Raqefet Cave in Israel found stone mortars carved with grooves, coated in residue from fermented grain, essentially proto-beer. The site belonged to the Natufian people, roughly 13,000 years old. That's beer brewed in a cave 13,000 years ago. Here's the part that flips everything. The standard story was humans settled down, farmed grain for bread, and then fermented the leftovers into beer. Agriculture first, alcohol second. But the Natufians weren't full farmers yet. They were hunter-gatherers, just experimenting with wild grains. Which means beer might not be a byproduct of farming. Beer might be one of the reasons we started farming at all. Here's what makes this so important. If early humans were settling near grains specifically to ferment beer, that reshapes the whole origin story of civilization. We picture agriculture as pure survival. We need reliable food. But there's a real archaeological argument that the earliest reason to grind grain and settle down was to get a buzz. Not just survival, ritual, a party. And once you have a party, you have a reason for people to gather. Alcohol may have glued the earliest human communities together, long before anyone wrote a law or built a temple. The story doesn't stop there. By 7000 BCE at Jiahu in China, archaeologists found pottery coated in residue from a fermented mix of rice, honey, and fruit. Basically an ancient cocktail. Same instinct, different continent, thousands of years later. By ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia, alcohol wasn't casual anymore. It was institutional. Beer was part of workers' rations for the people building the pyramids. Sumerian texts include a hymn to Ninkasi, the goddess of beer, doubling as one of the oldest known beer recipes in history. Alcohol went from an accidental fruit smell chased through the trees to a divine gift with its own goddess and its own economy. But underneath all that ritual, the biology hadn't changed. Humans were still running on that same gene mutation from 10 million years ago. We just built entire civilizations on top of an evolutionary quirk, which raises an uncomfortable question. If alcohol tolerance was a survival advantage, why do so many people struggle with it today? Our ancestors weren't drinking 40% whiskey. They were drinking mild, low-alcohol ferments, usually in communal, ritualized settings, not alone with a bottle at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. The environment around drinking changed a lot faster than our biology did. Same wiring, wildly different context. So here's the full picture. It starts with primates chasing the smell of alcohol because it led to food. Evolution rewires our bodies to metabolize it better than anything else in our family tree. Then, 13,000 years ago, hunter-gatherers in a cave in Israel are brewing something like beer, possibly before farming even exists, possibly as one of the reasons farming starts at all. It spreads across continents, from rice wine in China to sacred beer in Sumeria. It becomes ritual, religion, and glue for entire societies. And now, thousands of years later, you're still doing the same thing your ancestors did in that cave, reaching for something fermented at the end of a hard day to relax, to connect. That bottle in your fridge isn't just a modern habit. It's a direct line back to some of the very first choices that made us social, settled, civilized creatures. If you want more stories like this, where a normal, everyday habit turns out to have a wild ancient backstory, stick around.